So what about this reflection that we are seeing behind this image? And to add this reflection, we're going to customize Tailwind CSS classes a little bit, and particularly add a couple of new classes. So for example, we're going to add class called hero image that is going to be applied to this image element. And just because we have earlier included Tailwind CSS on this page as a play CDN to customize Tailwind CSS, for example, to add new classes, we can do the following. I'm going to create style tag in here with a type of text, Tailwind CSS, and right here let's use directive called layer. In this case, I'm going to place newly created class in a layer called components. The class is called hero image, and this one is going to contain only one CSS property called transform, because we're going to rotate an image a little bit. Let's specify the configuration. So we're going to rotate an image around the x-axis by 5 degrees, around the y-axis by -10 degrees, and around the z-axis by 2 degrees. And just to make this hero image class complete, without having to apply any additional classes to this image element, I'm going to move this around to Excel as well as shadow to Excel classes directly into hero image class. We can apply those same styles provided by those classes to this hero image class by using apply directive and specifying class names like so. As you can see, my VS Code is highlighting that apply directive. It cannot recognize this directive inside HTML file. So to remove that highlighting, I'm going to create .vscode folder within the project root with one file, settings.json. And just to disable that one inspection, I'm going to use unknown at roles property and simply ignore it. And after doing all that, we're about to see that our image will be rotated a little bit. But of course, this is not the final result. The main thing here is to add a reflection behind. So let's do it right now. This reflection will be represented by another div element with a class of hero reflection. There will be a custom class that will be defining right now. So following the same technique within that components layer, I'm going to add hero reflection class that is going to have transform property with almost the same configuration as hero image class. But in addition to all those rotations, we're going to add scale. So the element to which we're going to apply this hero reflection class, its size will be increased by 10%. And just to make that reflection to actually look like a reflection, we're going to add the following classes. Absolute to absolutely position the reflection behind an image. Then we'll also round corners of the reflection and apply a gradient to the background of the reflection that will be directed to the bottom left corner of the reflection. So the first color of the gradient will be indigo with a shade of 200, and the second color will be pink with a shade of 200. And of course, in order for the absolute position of this reflection to work properly, we'll have to make the wrapper element relatively positioned by using class relative like this. And now I'm going to specify how exactly this reflection is going to be positioned. So we're going to shift this reflection to the left by 20 units and from the top by 10 units in relation to an image. And just like that, we're seeing that our reflection has appeared. But so far it does not look exactly like our example. We're also going to apply perspective CSS property. And to do so, let's add additional utility class that I'm going to wrap into utilities layer. For example, let's call this class perspective 1000. And the CSS property that we are about to use in here will be called perspective with a value of 1000 pixels. And the result might not be that obvious. Let's try to use 2000 pixels first. And after applying this class to the wrapper element in here, let's also scale this wrapper element a little bit to make it bigger by 10% from the original size. And as of now, the result is not that obvious. So let's temporarily assign value 200 to this perspective property and see what is going to happen. And now we're seeing that the right side of an image is kind of closer to us than the left side. So applying 1000 pixels in this case will be enough for us. And then let's also add some paddings from both sides of container elements, and just to position those containers in the middle of the page by default, instead of always having to specify additional class mxAuto to position it in the center, I'm going to apply some configurations. So to extend or redefine some configurations of Tailwind CSS, we can use the config object. So in here, I'm going to define some overrides and assign it to config object. Specifically, we need to configure container element to make it always be positioned in the middle of the page. We can do so by using center property with a value of true. And to add paddings to all containers by default, I'm going to use padding property. And from now on, we no longer have to use that mxAuto class anytime we'd like to position container in a center, because this behavior is going to be applied by default. And after doing all this, we're seeing our final result.